Welcome to another episode of my show. I am your host, Jessica Moore. Today, I have a very special guest who is back again, y'all. So I'm happy because we've done a couple interviews in the past. I'm so excited to be bringing her up and having her back here, y'all. She is who, if you don't know her, you need to know her. We have been collaborating on things over the past 5 years, and she is just so amazing. I'm not gonna tell y'all everything she do because you're gonna learn as we go through here. But for the most part, her name is Dr. Karen Dukes. She is a leader in the world of disability and special education. And like I said, y'all, you are going to love her. So, like I said, I'm not going to give you too much, but one of her mottos is strengthen parents so they can strengthen their families. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Dr. Karen Dukes. Hi.
Hey, hello.
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So
Awesome.
I took notes. I went through everything. So I have all my notes here because I said I do not want to miss out or want other people to miss out on the opportunity to really know who you are. I have had the honor and privilege of watching you flourish for the
Oh,
past 5 years and just do so many amazing things. And firstly, I just want you to introduce who you are and what you do in the world.
okay. So again, and thank you for that introduction. When I met you, it was something about you, and you were just a super young lady. And I see you flourishing and growing, and I see the growth, and I love that about you. And thank you again. Thank you for having me. So, everyone, I am Dr. Karen Dukes. I am a special education teacher, and I started back in Detroit, Michigan. I spent some time in Illinois, and now I'm in Georgia. Special education is my love. I want to say it's my life. I always wanted to be a teacher. And then when I started college, I noticed, no, I have to do a specialty. And so that's how I got involved with special education students with disabilities, mild disabilities. And that's what I have been able to do in the 3 states that I've
Mhm.
lived in.
First, shout out to Detroit. So, yes, to my people.
Yes.
Okay. So, why special education?
I know. I grew up with my mother, and I love to say she was a missionary when I met her, and she actually retired as an international missionary when she was like 76 years old. And watching my mother travel the world and just being so needed and just being so loving and caring in the community, I feel that it was a spinoff from that. I was my mother's second child, her only girl. My mother was an only daughter, only sister, and then she had me. So let's say I was her partner. I had to go everywhere with her. So going
Mhm.
into the nursing homes, going visiting group homes, going to the foster care programs, projects. I started out really hanging with mom, but then she developed me into being a babysitter. And I
Mhm.
like to say this because when I think back over my life, I said this was ironic. My mother was a singer, so she traveled a lot singing for the in the church choirs and in the church communities. But this is what really sticks out with me. My mother probably had 6 friends and or associates with special needs children. And when I
Mhm.
think that, and if you could maybe even think over your life, and I'm like, who has that many? I just thought later in life, wow, that was a lot. I'm saying that because I was the babysitter. So I was going around, mama encouraged the ladies, no, bring your babies on. Karen to watch them. And so she instilled that in me. And whether they brought their children with them to the church, to the choir rehearsal, etc., mama
Mhm.
would say, I'll drop Karen off and she'll watch your baby. And I'm going to be honest, I may have been a little afraid at the age of 10, 11, 12, watching children with special needs because I was like, what is going on here? But I always wanted to be a teacher. So God put all that in me. I want to.
Mhm.
I was 4 or 5 years old playing school, playing the teacher. Now I'm 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm babysitting special needs children. And
Mm,
then when my mother was able to get her children out of the house, my mother had three children. So here we all going on. We're moving out of the house. We're 18, 19, 20. You would think, woo, okay, mama, do your thing. It's your life now. Then she brings in a foster special needs child.
mm.
So I come back home from college. I'm like, what's going on? Who's this little boy? So now he's with me. I'm going shopping, church parties with children, and he's my tag along. So when I think about it, and I thank God all the time for all of my steps, I just blame it on that. I just say that's where it came from. That's where it came from. But not a day go by that I thank God for giving me this, putting it in my spirit. But not only that, Miss Jessica, giving me the patience.
Mm,
Really, it's about patience, because I don't care whether you had the special needs child or you have a group home or foster care. It takes patience,
hmm.
and I have that.
I love it. I love it. So I have a lot of questions. So let me, because I want to break down everything you said. And so, just to the first thing, when you talked about parents, like how it was so many parents with children with special needs, what did you see as the need for those parents? What did they need to be able to thrive? The first thing I hear is a break. Because a lot of times, even with having, for me personally, I'm a special needs mom. And so a lot of times you are afraid to leave your children with certain people.
That's
So
right.
seeing that they had that trust with you. So definitely I know they needed a break. But what else did you see as a need for those parents?
Yes, yes. Thank you for saying that. You're right. They needed that break. But even as a young lady going in and just talking with mom and talking with mom and trying to get to understand, what am I doing and how do I care for this child, this little boy, this little girl. So the parents did need the break. But even at an early age, I noticed the parents needed organization. They
Mm,
needed skills. They needed understanding. And I don't know how, again, I was just 10, 11, 12, and 13 years old. And I was thinking, yes, strategies. Oh, let's do this. Oh, so he's in the crib. So let's do this. And I don't know, as I said, that this is all God. But my big thing, and I still carry it on today, ironically, I'm still in the classroom 40 years later. How about that? But
wow.
I still see parents need the strategies. They need some skills. They need that push. They
Mm,
need a lot of encouragements, because what happens, some of the parents, and my mother did experience this, where parents just threw their hands up and they gave up. I
mm,
can't do it. And you know how the preachers want to say, just pray. They lay in their hands. You can do all of that. But some of the mamas, and they were all from different age groups, but
mm,
some of them just, I can't do it. And so that's what and I carried that on in my career, giving the parents strategies and giving them some fundamentals and giving them some games and giving them some tricks.
mhm.
And we got to psych these kids out and we have to say this and we have to say that. And I was saying that 40, 50 years ago, and I still say it today.
So what are some of the strategies that you give to parents? Some
Um,
practical things that they can do.
some practical things, yes. What I always wanted to see with my special needs children, I wanted the families, the parents, to treat them the same. And
Mm,
so they can still wash dishes. They can help me sweep this floor, and they can help me make the bed. And so I know parents, and now let's say now, Miss Jessica, let's go back 50 years where I'm dealing with parents that I was in my teens, so the mom was 30, 40, 50, but may have been your friends look at you and your family look at you and they were ashamed. Maybe some of them may have been embarrassed, so they just want to keep them in the house. And
mm,
even if I had a first cousin that went to kindergarten and cursing teachers out, being put out as a 5-year-old. But my mother said she used to always talk to my aunt about the do's and the don'ts, and don't talk to him like that. And you all doing all that cursing in the house. That's why he's at the school cursing at the teachers. And
mm,
yes, mentally challenged, but calm down. So my mother was that kind of person. So I was watching mama and I was like, yeah. But I really encountered a lot of people that was on that embarrassing end of it and just wanted the baby to just sit there or and they just didn't go places. And I just felt when I went into the homes, I wanted them to play with me. I wanted them to hold my hands. After I got over my fear, for some reason, although I love this, you heard me say I had a fear a couple of days.
Mm.
Watching a whole, and I'm saying whole, a big 12-year-old still in a crib, but maybe he had on a helmet
Wow.
because he's banging his head and things like that. But I didn't know any better, but I wanted to play. And so I would tell the parents, I don't mind them helping me wash the dishes. I don't mind them helping me I'm in their house now, and I'm telling the parents. And I just thought psychologically, they can still play. They can still go out on the porch and sit with me because the parents will be, just stay in, just let them stay in that bedroom. I'm in the house now, but they wanted the babies to stay in the bedroom and things like that. So I've always been a game person. I grew up loving games back there in Detroit, Michigan, playing Monopoly on the porch on a rainy day. I love games. My brothers and I, we played games. So I took that into my program or working with kids and even teaching today. You can give me the curriculum. I can teach all of that through a game. So, and
I
just to
love
make
it.
it fun, just to make it more fun and get the kids involved. And even if they're playing the checkers and the chess wrong, even with my mentally challenged children, my autistic children, I'm like, this is how we move. You're not gonna flip it around. And so I psychologically like talking to the children. There's nothing wrong. And I just want the parents to have that patience and to feel the same way.
Yes, I can. First of all, I've heard a lot about like back in the day, like how it was back in the day, keeping little Johnny and little Susie in the house and stuff like that. And so for me, I've never really, and I know like this could be for a lot of people, we don't even realize like what's going on. Like children, I had heard of autism before,
Yes,
but you never really, unless it's you.
that's
So
right. It affects you,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and so at this point, my son was diagnosed 2 years ago. Prior to that, like I said, it was just like it just wasn't my world. I just never thought about it. Kids out and they act a fool, and you like, man, something wrong with the parent. And you just keep going on. And I just think and even like once my son was diagnosed, and that became my life. For a little while, I went through that period of I'm not going into Walmart and having everybody stare. I can remember the last day that I had went into Walmart because my son was grabbing things off of the aisles and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like, what is going on? And so from there, I was like, that's when I started online shopping at Walmart and getting my groceries delivered. But what I had to learn as I'm navigating through the diagnosis and everything is I have to take him back to the store. He has to learn that's not appropriate. And I have to have that patience. And so one thing that I did, and we started getting services, and this is something that I worked with his therapist, and she helped me to see this. Just go to the store. Like not when you need to. You know what I'm saying? Not when I need to hurry up and cook dinner, but okay, hey, it's a Wednesday afternoon. We're not doing nothing. Let's go try to get 3 items and
Yes. Yes.
see how he does. And having that patience, it takes so much patience. And now we just walk into the store and it's no behavior problems at all. But we had to take those baby steps. But I like what you said when it's treat children with special needs the same way you would treat any kid. They have to learn the same thing. Like even in my work with families, they say things like, I'm like, he's 3. Is he potty trained? No, because he can't talk. What talking guy? What do you say when you go to the bathroom? You get what I'm saying? So I can just relate to everything that you're saying.
Yes.
My
Yes. It's something.
Yeah. So what I want to know is how can people, because I saw some stuff about you do some trainings on inclusive education. So how can people that are not in this world, that don't have children with special needs, how can what would you say to them to become more inclusive and to understand? So what would you say to that?
This is the thing. we're all in this world together. There's only one world.
Mm,
So I am so afraid, and I'm sorry for people that are in this world or on their workspace, and they feel like I can't deal with anyone that's different. I can't deal with special
mm,
needs. It's not in my house. And just like you said, it may not have been in your house at first, and then all of a sudden something happens, because you never know. But let me tell you, the love, these children, autistic and all, they are out in the workplace. So we
mhm,
have to have the love and the patience and the time. And I love the employers that are employing these children. They're out in the hotels, they work in the front desk. I've always seen a lot of them, let's say at the grocery stores bagging, but these kids out, and then they grow up to be adults. So
mhm,
I just want everyone in the world to not say be like me, but have the patience and be kind and considerate, because you don't know. You
mm,
don't know. And this is a true story. This was, let's say, about 10 years ago in Detroit, Michigan. One of your judges, I was talking to one of the district judges, and we were just having conversations about what was going on. It was election year. And so I couldn't believe this, but I found out that one of the governors did not want to pass the bill on different medical insurance for children with autism. And I'm like, what? And so
mhm,
I read the information, and I'm like, that is so crazy. What are you talking about? They didn't want to do an amendment. They didn't want to add different things for autistic. And I was like, wow, that's a shame. So we were just going over it, especially Ed and me. I always welcome the conversations. But this is why I said what I said about people need to be mindful and careful. It may not be you today, but it could be the very same governor daughter had an autistic child.
wow.
That's why I tell people, be mindful, be careful. You should be afraid to
Mm,
say something negative or look at someone with a side eye, because you don't know. So
yes.
on that note, what do you think happened with the governor then? Oh, he was signing those bills now. Now you want to change the Blue Cross Blue Shield to include autism. It was only because your grandchild now.
Mhm,
And but before we get to that, and I love him and thanked him for my Michigan folks, but I want everyone to just be mindful and careful, period. You can't laugh at anyone. And it was really bad back when I was a teenager, how people would laugh at people that didn't walk the same, didn't look the same. And back then, Jessica, before you were born, we really used the word mental retardation,
mhm,
retarded. The
mm,
crazy house, the crazy school, the crazy classroom. We don't say that now because we're a little bit more professional, a little bit more sophisticated. And again, you don't want to hurt family and people's feelings. So you have to be careful with the wording. Now, I do hear people still say some things now that they shouldn't word it that way, or they shouldn't tell the parents that,
mm,
but because we just have to be mindful. We have to be very careful. And
mhm.
so, as I said, this is one world. Special education, the special needs, the developmentally delayed children. I love it when they're out there going to college. I
Mm,
love seeing them up at the workforce. So everyone needs to just be happy about it, and welcome them with open arms.
I love it. So you recently, it's probably been a while, maybe about a year or two. You wrote your first children's book. Yay.
Yeah.
And it's called The Teacher in Me. Can you talk a little bit about your book?
Yes, yes, a teacher in me. As I said a little earlier, I say I was about 4 years old, 3, 4 years old when I started talking about I wanted to be a teacher. And I grew up, I just would play school and I would play teacher. I had my parents playing with me. My brothers would be my students. And if no one else, the stuffed animals and the baby dolls. And so, and I think my story really is a story for a lot of teachers that say, girl, yes, you remember how we used to play school in the rain. We played in the garage. We played. But really, it wasn't until about 5 years ago, because I always said I wanted to be a teacher. I never said I wanted to be an author. I didn't know anything about that part of my life. Although I was a teacher in the school with millions of books, never saw myself as an author. And so I lost my
Mm,
father passed, and then it was like in September. So now we're getting ready. His birthday is in December, Christmas in December. We're getting ready for his heavenly celebrations. And I'm like, what we gonna do? What we gonna do? I don't know what's going on. And something came over me like, I didn't want to forget things about him and how he
Mm.
raised me and how he talked to me. I was his only daughter, and I didn't want to forget these things. So I just started thinking, I'm gonna just write some things down. And I grew up a writer. I'm talking about a little girl journaling, not an author writer. And so I was, I'm going to write some things down. Something came over me one day and said, why don't you write a story about your dad?
Oh.
So I wrote that story about my dad, but I was having difficulties getting my illustrator together. Woke up another day thinking, hey, before I published the story about this crazy thing that my dad said and did, and I had to share that with you one day, snowy day in Detroit, Michigan. And we're talking 20, 30 inches of snow. So it was awesome. But the flip side, I said,
Mm.
being an author, maybe I need to introduce myself to the world, introduce them to Dr. Karen Dukes first.
Mm.
So I flipped and changed my second story to be my first. So the teacher and me, it's a story about this little girl who just wanted to play school, be a teacher, and she had dreams of being a teacher. And then as you go through the story, she's playing. She would be at school playing school. She would go home and do homework and then get to friends on the street and play school. And she would babysit and she's playing school. So the story goes like that. But at the end, truly, the little girl goes to college to become a teacher, and the teacher is me.
Oh.
And
Oh.
I wanted to share that with kids. You can dream. You need to dream. Do you see yourself as a teacher or an attorney, a police, a nurse, a doctor, a barber, or a hairstylist? So the
Mm.
story can be, and my son said, Ma, you need to keep going with your story. You saying the teacher and me, but my barber said, what about the barber and me? The hairstylist, they
Mm.
said, girl, where's my story? Where's the hairstylist and me? And so I said, we want to do all of that. But the main thing is encouraging the children, dream, see yourself. Because I saw myself, I really didn't see myself as any other person or any other thing. Not
Mm.
only that, I need the parents to encourage your children.
Mm.
Because when you look at my story, when I think about it, I'm like, that's so silly. My mom and dad were sitting in the living room in a chair like this, like little students. And they would just let me go on and on. And I was like, not knowing, because we didn't know then, but look at the support I had. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Look at the
Yes.
support. So I want parents support your children, encourage them. No, everyone is not going to college, but we have the technical schools. We have so many areas you can go in for certifications. So I just want people to, the families work together. Even with the special needs kids, they can go to school, they can do this. I have a young man in my life, loves to bake. He
Mm.
sees himself having a bake shop. Let's go, let's do that. And so I just love that. And so that's how the story all came about. And hey, I want to do more with it and I want to write more, but it's part of, let's encourage your children, dream, be encouraged,
Yes.
and move on and do that. Even if you don't follow my path, follow something. Be
Mm.
positive and think about something that you're doing and want to do in your life.
I love it.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's one of the amazing things that you do. So now Duke's Way Academy, what is that?
Yes. Oh my Lord. So my last name Dukes. So years ago, I found myself working in the community with children that didn't want to go to school. They had dropped out. They didn't care anything about school, but they wanted to be in the street and they wanted to steal cars and they wanted to do drugs and they just wanted to sit around and do nothing. And so I don't know, again, I had the energy to talk to them about, no, we have to do more than that. You're driving a car without license. Why?
Mm.
So let's get our driver's license. How about that? And so I worked with the children. I went to the Secretary of State. I got a lot of those books. And although those kids didn't want to go into the schoolhouse, I said, it doesn't matter. That's just a building. I can teach you out here on my porch. I can teach you on the grass. I can teach you somewhere. And so I started doing that, just working with the kids in the neighborhood. It was just like a joke, but I just felt, oh, I'm going to get you one way or the other in the room, in the classroom right now. So it started like that. But then I started saying, Dukes, I'm going to teach my way. It was just a joke one day. Duke's way. I'm gonna do my way. I was married to Duke, so I took that name. We made the Duke's Way Academy out of that, and I just kept doing my work with children in the community. I took my idea to the city, and I was able to do fashion shows. I was able to take the
Wow.
kids skating. I was able to get a bus. I was able to do things just to get them off the street so we can do something positive. Now listen at this. This was in the Chicago area. And
Mm.
again, it didn't have anything to do with me working in the public school. I just did this in the community. I stuck with that name for some reason. I moved to Georgia and I came here to Georgia, no family, no friends. And my husband had to start over with AT&T, blah, blah, blah. And so I had some little jobs and then I finally wind up bringing Duke's Way Academy back as a homeschool network
Oh, okay.
for about 10 years. Now all the kids, same thing, but instead of me reaching the kids outside under the tree, now they're coming in my house. And I
Oh.
started this homeschool program with families, like the parents could come and stay too. And let's teach, let's work, let's talk about teaching all day. And so that's Duke's Way Academy. Now it's a nonprofit organization. We have a 501c3. And when I had stopped using the name, it had gone dormant and I thought I was through with it. I went back into the state because I said, I need to bring back my community service in some capacity. The name was still there. Praise the Lord. So I
Yes.
brought it back now. So we're not a homeschool. I'm not tutoring. We're using it as a community service.
What type of services do you offer to the community?
So for educational services, what has happened, we got on the list. We do the Toys for Tots. I do workshops. I created some programs with teachers where we come together educationally. We had some seminars. My big thing is now I have adopted some daycare centers. Why? Because I wanted to reach those parents of these children with not only special needs, but parents, period, with children under 4 years old. I know you're talking about under five. So we're talking under
Mm.
five because what I'm finding out in the community, and I'm talking about church, going to the grocery store, and the kids, as you said about your son, and you thought I'm not going back into no grocery store, but I see a lot of things in the community with the parents
Mm.
and the kids. But ironically so, God has put me in a space, and my kids always say, "Ma, how do kids gravitate towards you?" I'm like, I don't know. They come up to me in the grocery store, or I'll tell the parents, "I got it. It's okay when a child hits me, and I don't know that child." I'm like, "It's okay," because I can maybe see something in them, and I'm like, "I'm good." But what I wanted to do is adopt these daycares, go back into the daycare centers and work with the owners, the directors, the staff, the parents on some skills or just help the school. Because when I look at daycare centers, and I know a lot of them, whether I met the owners or not, or I know some people that own the daycares, and I know they have all the beautiful lesson plans and the menus on the wall. It's hard to get through everything you may need to get through in a day.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I said, maybe I need to adopt these daycares. I'm going to have to help them with some skills. I
Mm.
want to come up with an idea. Why am I going into the daycares? Why do I want to work with these parents? Because parenting classes are needed. And
Mm.
so that's what my big thing has been right now. And so, one, I get my foot in by going in and I may read my story. And so I may talk to the children about their dream and their career path. And I tell them about this little girl. So I do that. The other thing, I'm really big now on social emotional learning. So it's not
That was
new.
the next thing I was
It's not new, but people don't have time to teach it. They're
saying.
not trying to learn it. And so that's been my big thing. I'm going into the daycares and just between two of us and whoever else listening. The curriculum may be there, but when do you have time to open up the book and really teach that? So you
Mm.
can teach it through your everyday walk and through stories. So now I'm working as a liaison, a consultant for a few daycares to social emotional learning and have some parent meetings because the social emotional learning is not just for the daycare staff, it's for the children, it's for the parents. I'm pulling out the parents piece,
Mm.
the staff too, because they're with those children 6 until 6. And so I, my dream is now I'm bringing it together. Let's talk because I don't know your next question, but my concern is these children, some of them go into the daycare at 6 weeks. You know how the mama just had the babies. They can't wait for those 6 weeks, right? Take them to the daycare. So the daycare really is the second home. Those are their mamas, their daddies over there at the daycare. And then they go through their little thing for 3, 4 years and then they go into the public school system. I'm in the public school system and I see a breakdown.
Mm.
I see some dilemma there
The
because
gap.
they come in not knowing how to really act and sit and act accordingly for pre-K.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
there's a problem there. So I'm attacking that problem.
Okay, so I want to bring it back. I have a couple questions about that, but first I wanted to ask you, since you do have experience with homeschool,
Yes, ma'am.
which I didn't even realize that, but I think I knew a lot of things that you were doing, but they weren't relevant to me at the time.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So yeah, so now it's so for me, I'll be homeschooling my son this year. Um,
Okay.
yeah, we just had some issues with the IEP process. And I didn't realize it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still learning. And so like with his IEP, you know how as a parent and I'm new to this and I'm just trusting that the teachers are going to make the right decisions and some of them don't. And so as a result of that's why I decided to go ahead and pull my son out of public school. He did do the Georgia pre-K privately this year, and then now we are transitioning to homeschooling him starting in 2 weeks. so,
Wow.
what advice do you have for
Girl.
parents of children with special needs? This not even just for everybody, for not just for the podcast.
You.
I need to know for myself too. Like, because
Exactly.
it's totally different. I homeschooled my daughter for a little while, but it's a different experience. So, what advice do you have for parents who may be in the same situation where they had to pull their child out of public school
Yeah.
and homeschool them?
Right. And kudos to you. I'm so proud of you. So off the camera, I have to get over there now to see what in the world is going on over there. I love it though. I love it. I love it. I always have parents to talk about, I'm just gonna just go home. I'll just homeschool. And that's fine. Listen, let me just tell you this. I've been in a situation where I encouraged a parent to pour their child out of fourth grade. Let's say fourth grade. She was scared of the fifth grade test, da 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 da. And people were like, girl, you encouraging them, mama. I said, you know why? Because if mamas and daddies think they can do more or do better, let them try it. Because number one, keep this in mind. You can always go back into the school system.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Mhm.
okay. It's okay. So just go on and get through that hurdle. Just go on and try it. But the thing for you, because I just want you to make sure you have your curriculum and you're sticking to the curriculum and run your room that you're going to use or your area just like a school. My big thing is scheduling. I want
Mhm.
parents to make sure they create a schedule and you stick to it because that
Mhm.
helps your child. And I don't know how far you've gone. So as I said off camera, ask
Mhm.
me anything about that and I'll come over there. Long as you have your curriculum, honey, long as you have your schedule, go at it. But this is the other thing for me, socialization, because you're
Mhm.
already dealing with social skills. So you're already dealing with maybe there's some social issues. So this is the thing. Socialization is the big thing. So homeschool all you want, but your child can still go into their homeschool for after school activities or sports. Like for the older children, you can do that. But if not, you still have the parks and recreations. And so
Mhm.
don't limit yourself. And so make sure you add that socialization piece outside of your house. Just like you said, you
Yeah.
went to the grocery store a couple of days, do all that. Check with your church. You can get involved with some of those activities free. And then if you have to go in and join the club ball, the soccer, the t-ball,
That's
do
what we're
that.
looking into. Yep.
Yes, yes, I'm so proud of you. But that's my tips for parents. Don't forget that socialization piece
Yeah.
because
Um,
you have to go outside of your home for that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say for me, my goal is to actually keep him home for a year and educate myself before putting him back. I'm learning even from speaking with different teachers and administrators and educators. It's a lot that I'm learning. Like he's going into kindergarten. I just need to educate myself a little bit more before I walk into these meetings, signing off on paperwork, not knowing how this is going to affect him in the long term.
That's fine. And I love
So,
it. So do that. You can't beat Google and YouTube right now.
mhm,
So you can buy all the books you want. And I'll say, don't worry about buying all those books. Get on your social media, get
mhm,
into your YouTube and Google, educate yourself as much as you want.
yeah,
Let me know later which program you're using. I want to know the curriculum that you've chosen.
mhm,
And there's a schedule far as how many hours
yeah,
homeschoolers need. So stick to that. You're a great mom, so you would do great things. And what I'm hearing you say, you're going to learn together. Because you're
Yeah.
trying to learn, you're trying to teach, and the baby trying to learn. So you're going to do it together. It's
Yeah.
not your first rodeo. You did it
Yeah.
before, so you can do it. And I've seen you a little on social media, so you're sociable. So get them out there. It would be great. And if there's anything I can help you do, I don't, for kindergarten, you're going to be able to teach all those skills. But for your other parents listening, if there's an area, some parents just may not be comfortable teaching math or may not be comfortable teaching science and social studies. So when they call me, I love going in, I love helping them or showing them. But let me tell you something, YouTube will be your best friend. Because if you
Yeah.
run across something that you're like, I'm not really comfortable teaching that, go to your YouTube and it'll
Mm,
help you teach it. But kindergarten, you got it. You got it.
thank
And
you.
all the parents out there, you have it. Because really, once a parent feel that I'm going to homeschool, that's step one right there. Because that's big. Because some parents like, I would love to homeschool. I don't have that kind of schedule.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you say, I just rather do it myself and I'm gonna work out my schedule, then
Mm,
go for it. Because
yeah.
it's in the heart. So parents,
Yeah, because it's
go with
I
what's in
can't
your heart.
have my son out here. Sometimes as parents, you just have to adjust to life the way
That's what
it's
I want.
given to you. And so,
There you
but
go,
yeah,
man.
we'll definitely talk about that
Yes, ma'am.
off camera.
Yep.
My other question for you, I know you touched on the social emotional learning. Can you actually break that down? What that
Yeah.
actually is for parents that may have never heard those
Never
words?
heard of it. And you'll be hearing things like SEL or social emotional learning. That's what it
Mhm.
stands for. And it's not new, audience, Miss Jessica and team. It's not new, but it's 5 components. And so what the school system, but what we just need in the world today is making sure the kids are not just getting all their educational needs, but they're getting some other social and they're getting some other relational skills. And so that's all it's about. You can teach it through reading, you can teach it through games. And as you heard me say, I love the games point of view. And so I don't want to miss anything. So one of the components is self-awareness. So you
Mhm.
parents, you heard of all this, but what we want in the world today is put some emphasis on it and make sure you're teaching your children these social emotional learning skills to make it in the world, to make it in school, to make it. And so someone in the world broke it down in these 5 components. So you have the self-awareness, and that's just understanding emotions, and so and the thought process. And then
Mhm.
what else we have? Self-management, and that's managing your emotions. Because let me tell you, these kids know they have some self-management skills that need to be dealt with. And
Mhm.
so when you're dealing with their emotions and when you're dealing with their thoughts and their behaviors, number one, parents, you cannot compare your child. Miss Jessica, you may have had your daughter, now you got these 2 boys. So you're thinking, oh my gosh, my daughter didn't do that. But stop right there. You're talking girl, boy, you're talking difference in years, age. So we have to be careful with that. I'm real big on helping parents, and that's from the daycare setting, work on behavior structures because the kids are going to leave you eventually. And so
Mhm.
you want them to be headed in the right direction. Another component is social awareness, and that's just understanding and feeling compassionate. And there's other areas with that. But what I like about all of the social emotional learning skills, you can teach these skills, Miss Jessica, through books, through
Mhm.
stories. And a lot of times when you're reading my story, reading any story, you can pull some social emotional learning out. And there's a lot of books on it anyway. And so you do that so you can let the children, your child know it's okay to feel like that. It's okay to be like that.
Mhm.
But you constantly are teaching, and we can teach through these stories and get them to interact too. To say, hey, because I didn't like it when you said this, or I didn't feel. And
Mhm.
so you try to straighten that out. Another area is the relationship skills, and that's just maintaining healthy relationships. When parents, and we're older, so you know how your grandmom and people and parents may have said, you do it because I said so.
Yeah.
Think about your feelings. I'm the adult. Da, 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 da. So it's giving the child time to just talk about, let's deal with relationships. How do you feel? And I know parents and people say, I don't have time. I'm not doing all that. I don't care about what the child feels in the kid. But
Mm.
I'm just saying, Social emotional learning is the key to help us really formulate better relationships with our children. And what's another one? Being responsible and dealing with decision making. I
Mm,
love when even on social media, when parents are teaching financial literacy and the kids are counting, they do a lot of things that a little 2 and 3 year olds, when I do see them making decisions about where they want to
mhm,
go eat and what they're doing, I just love it. But you have to incorporate that because what did I say in the beginning? Just treat all the children like there's nothing going on, nothing
mhm,
negative. And so the social emotional learning, it's a packet, it's a whole curriculum for staff, for parents, and for children. And that's what I'm coming out with. Talking a little bit more about the daycare, even using the videos or even teaching social emotional learning through storybooks.
mm. I
Yes, ma'am.
love it. Man, you are amazing. I just want to say that you are doing so many amazing things. You are helping so many people. And on behalf of parents of children with special needs, because I get it now. Like,
Yes,
kids,
yes,
I'm
ma'am.
appreciative of everything that you're doing. So I know we are wrapping up in at the end of our interview. So firstly, I want to ask you, who should be connecting with you? What is it? Could you just explain for anybody that may want to connect with you to get any resources from you, services from you? Who is your target audience and who should connect with you? And then
Yeah.
after that, tell us how to connect with you, how to get your services and stuff like that.
Let me tell you, out of all the questions, that may be so hard, but no, my main target is just dealing with parents. I'm really big on empowering parents, strengthening parents so they can strengthen their own families.
Mhm,
So, parents, it doesn't matter how old you are, even grandparents, because I'm just trying to help people with their family structure. Okay.
mhm,
So, when I say that, I'm just having a grand time when I'm talking to parents and talking to grandparents, especially if there's something going on in their home and they want me to come over or they want me to help them with that. But my main target audience right now, dealing with parents with those children under 5 years old, three, four,
mhm,
5 years old, because, and I know the little babies and the newborns, it's a different ball game, but I must bring this out to you that since I started talking about this, let's say last year, there's a real pipeline epidemic going on, and it's
mhm,
preschool to prison. Okay. So
mhm,
that's why I'm talking a lot more about daycare, working with parents with the children under age 5,
mhm.
because there are children being suspended from daycare, put out of
Oh,
daycare.
mine. I want to tell you, I've been through it all in these past 2 years.
Okay,
Yes,
there you go.
mine got suspended for 3. What am I supposed to do? First of all, my child is 3 years old. You suspended my kid, and then you know what I actually did is I spoke with his teacher, and his teacher, because he was going to after school program. So this is when he was in the school system. So he was going to school, and then the teacher, she said she was upset. She was furious about them suspending him, and she said she wanted to talk with the daycare and if they didn't know what resources they need for him and stuff like that. Because the thing is, he had one teacher who actually had a background in special education, no concerns at all. Soon as that teacher left, it's like they're calling me every other day saying he doing this and he doing that. So when she tried to actually talk with the staff, and that's why I'm glad you said that you're going to be going into the daycares, they didn't want to set up the meeting. They didn't have time for it. They didn't
No,
have time to sit down and talk about these strategies and things to do with him to prevent him from getting suspended again. I also didn't know until after the fact that every child with autism is entitled to a behavior intervention plan. Didn't know anything about that.
I'm
When I
sorry.
tell you I'm winging it and I'm learning as I'm going.
Sorry, I'm
So it's
sorry.
if you haven't tried, and so when I figured that out, and I've been like things that I can do to advocate, and
That's right.
so I brought that to them. Unless you've tried, here are his behaviors, and then here is what you can do. If
Right.
that doesn't work, then call me. I haven't got a phone call again. This has been over a year ago.
Yes.
So, like, even people like you who are going in and educating parents, helping parents to understand their rights, their child's rights, different things like that is like really important.
It's
So,
very important. And I'm sorry you went through that. I'm sorry I didn't know that. But that's exactly why I'm saying, and I know people say, oh, all these problems, it's the parents, it's the parents, it's the parents. I said, we can't just blame the parents.
mhm.
So that's why I'm at a point now, okay, I need to adopt some daycares. And I like to use the word adopt. I'm not adopting them for real. People like, girl, how much money you have? It's the relationships. And
Yes. Well,
so
adopt an agency too. Atlanta Youth Services, please.
yes, yes.
Put
And
us on
so,
the list.
and on that page, so what I'm doing, my toys for tots, I'm taking the toys to, I'm going back to my daycares, trying to run these parent meetings. But listen, I was at a daycare and a father raised his hand because we're trying to figure out when are we doing the parent meetings. And because it's hard to meet at 5 and 6, those parents want to go in and pick those babies up and leave. And
Mhm.
so I said, I remember this. Let's feed them and let's have some prizes and some gifts. Let's do a raffle. They'll stay an extra hour to hear me. We got the
Mhm.
music going. We're going to play a video. I'm only going to talk about 30 minutes. Let's pull out some salad, spaghetti, something to drink, but we have to keep the kids. So now I need to let some of those daycare workers take those kids outside so I can talk to the parents. But I had a father to raise his hand and say, what do you think about us having classes on Saturdays or Sundays? So I
Mhm.
know it's a need. And I was so proud of the father because how we mamas, you strong, mama gonna say, but a man, a father. I said, what time you thinking like on a Saturday? Because I'm open. You know, they were like, maybe we can do something like on a Saturday at 11. They gave me that option.
Yes, yes.
Oh, check this out. The man said, what about Sundays, like about 4 o'clock?
Mm.
I was like, go ahead, daddy. I was so proud, but deep down in my heart, I'm crying tears. And I'm like, but that's letting you know the parents want the help or they want to
Yeah.
work together on how are we going to help these children stay in school. A 2-year-old being put out of daycare because he won't stop biting. Okay, I know it's a liability. I know it could be a lawsuit, some people say, but putting the baby out, the mamas and daddies have to go to work so they can pay the
Yeah.
daycare. So
Mhm.
put the baby out because he won't stop biting. So some people say, bite him back. Don't break skin, but just and and say, hey, you have to stop biting your friend over there. So I'm like, oh my Lord, it's a lot. So it's interesting when I'm at the daycares and I hear the stories and I see the things, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. And I'm so sorry you went through that, but preschool to prison pipeline is serious.
Mhm.
Because let me tell you, the government, the communities, okay, yeah, just keep kicking them out. Because now we're
Mhm.
gonna build more prison. Because if you can't make it in daycare, preschool, you
Mhm.
won't make it in elementary. See, years ago, it was just the elementary to prison. They were
Yeah.
talking about the third graders. The reading scores were so low, and that's how they were building the jails. They said, okay, look at
Mhm.
this high percentage of these children can't read and they can't pass the third grade test. Build more prisons because they're looking at that failure. So
Mhm.
it hurts my heart that they've gone back to preschool. So that's why I made it my mission, prayed and said, God, help me and let me just find a couple of hours a week and go and see and check in on my daycares and see what you need me to do. And so on that note, I've scheduled some time with some of the daycares, whether I'm, as I said, reading my story or reading some other stories. But the other thing I want to actually put a plug in, we're creating, I have a team that's creating digital personalized stories. So let's say for your son, the story is it's an SEL story, but your son will hear his name.
Oh,
So it's
wow. Oh.
personalized like that. So it'll go on and on. So he's in the story, and then it can be
Mm.
about all three of your children, but we can focus on one child at a time and have their own story. And it's big, and it's for social emotional learning as well. So they
So
can
how
hear.
do you plug into that?
I know. Well, you know me, so I'm going to get your information, put your name on the list, so I can get the correct spelling of your son's name. He can be the star. Let's take each one of your children so they can be the star of their own book. And it's just a little
Yeah.
information I need because we want to make the story relevant and we want to
Mhm.
make it cute. And you may tell me that, oh, he likes tigers, he likes lions. So then I'll pick something and we'll bring him in. And we're doing that. I'll do that for you free of charge. And I want everyone to have these stories to help them on the daycare level. So I'm starting with my daycares, getting their stories. And so don't let me forget, we talked about that. And so we'll make sure you get a personalized story
Thank you.
for your
Yeah,
children
you
and all
know,
the other parents out there. And so, how can you reach me? So, I'm at dukeswayacademy.com. That's the website. There's a little information there. My email is dukeswayacademy@gmail.com.
okay.
And I don't mind the messages I'm getting. I'm trying to connect to more groups on social media because that's where a lot of my people are. I
Mhm,
joined the daycare groups, the child care groups on social media. And so
mhm.
I'm giving my tidbits there, and I know I need to do more with that and or have my own channel thing. And so I give a lot of advice right there on YouTube that way.
I was
And
just gonna say you have a YouTube channel, right?
yeah, so the YouTube channel, because as you see, I like to talk or I like people to talk to me. The YouTube channel is Strength in Education. And that comes from me just, it came from the pandemic where when we were all locked into our homes and I was
Mhm.
missing touchy feeling and hugging the students. So I was doing a Zoom with parents and teachers. But then after we went back into the building, I missed that conversation. So
Mhm,
then I started the YouTube where I was interviewing the parents, nonprofit organizations. But my big thing is interviewing children. Let them
mm,
just talk about what's going on in their lives and on their mind. We have about 16 episodes. I'm looking for someone now to help me push the idea to a real network. Because I said,
mm.
this is reality TV. The children need to talk. Let them talk about what's going
Yeah.
on in their lives. So I created that in that aspect. So that's YouTube, Strength in Education. 3 words.
Thank you. So this has
Yeah.
been amazing. I was just gonna say I was cleaning out my garage recently
Okay.
and found some books that my mom did, of course not digital, with she had them made and I was just talking to my husband about it. It had like my picture in it and it's the same thing. And that's where my love from reading came from, especially like being able to see myself and it's you don't really realize how important that is until you grow up and it's man, these were the foundation of how I was able to get where I am. So it's just so I love it. I love everything that you're doing. I'm
Oh,
so
yes,
glad that you
ma'am.
came here today. A wealth of knowledge. I don't know how you do it all,
Right.
but I love, like I said, watching you flourish and do all the things. So I know you talked about how listeners can stay connected with you. Did you have any final words of advice, encouragement, or whatever you want to say before we close out?
I think I've said so much, but another thing I love to say, parents are the first teachers. So I want parents to just remember that when they hear about meetings or programs or resources for teachers, it includes them too. When I
Mm,
did my seminars for educators, it included parents too,
mm,
because parents are the first
mhm,
teachers. And I just want parents to really get the strength from that quote and that saying and just do all you can do because yes you are a person, you the mama, you the parent, but you a teacher, so the kids are watching you, and so you instill all you want into your child because that's your child, those are your children. And
mhm,
just keep in mind, and I have a t-shirt that says that, but just parents keep that in mind, you're the first
mhm,
teacher, so you do your best, you be the best, you influence. When you go shopping, when you go to the teacher supply store, go for it. Get those letters and you get those sight words and you teach and send your scholar out into the world to do great things. But it came from you. It came from the mom and the daddy. So just
mhm.
remember, teachers, parents are the first teachers.
Yes.
Keep that in mind.
Ladies and gents, that is Dr. Karen Dukes. I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you, Dr. Dukes, for
Yes.
coming. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.
Thank you.